Tilford was able to find the manhole cover, ripped it off with his bare strength, and rescued the kids from there.
Developing tonight, intense downpours create a life or death situation for two boys who were swept into this drainage tube in Federal Way.
Police say the 12-year-old boys were playing in a storm pond near Pacific Highway South when they got dragged and sucked into the drain pipe. Heavy rain stirred up a strong current in the pond, and more rain is on the way overnight. We have team coverage on the forecast, as well as the threat of major flooding on local rivers.
So we start with KOMO's Joe Marino live tonight in Federal Way, where those boys were rescued. And Joe, you spoke with police about how they freed the kids from that water-filled pipe.
About that pipe.
This concrete cylinder is where Federal Way police found two 12-year-old boys hanging on for their lives. It all started with the children heading out from their nearby apartment complex to splash around in the falling rain.
At one point, they seemed to have lost footing and ended up coasting down this river a little bit and ended up in a drainage pipe.
The pond seems shallow, but it's deceptive because a whirlpool forms above the mouth of the drainage pipe.
From there, both children were sucked down into the pipe and transported 7 or 8 feet to another drainage thing, a big drainage pipe that luckily had a ladder inside of it.
Police say the boys held on and screamed for help, which is when neighbors called 911. Officers Travis Tilford and Lee Price showed up and leapt into action.
One went to the right of the tube, the other one went to the left. Officer Tilford was able to find the manhole cover, ripped it off with his bare strength, and rescued the kids from there.
The whole region experienced a heavy soaker at times, sending water across roadways in Kent and other cities. It created hazardous conditions for so many who ventured out.
There were sheets of water in all the parking lots. It was just like currents coming down.
As for the potentially dangerous storm drain, maintenance crews showed up to investigate and will try to determine if safety changes need to be made.
I would imagine somebody will be looking at it and seeing exactly what happened.
Now, one of these boys had pretty bad scrapes across his lower legs. It did require medical treatment, but tonight, both of those children are going to be just fine. Back to you.
Glad to hear that. It is just coming down right now. And right now,
Eric, it's been coming down steadily all afternoon. This is one of the areas that we're going to be watching closely. The Snoqualmie River right next to Tolt McDonald Road. You can see that county workers have already come through, closed the gate up here because of the expected flooding issues. You see the warning there right on the sign. So the Snoqualmie River and the nearby Tolt River, they are expected to see or get close to minor flood stage sometime late tonight or early tomorrow morning. By tomorrow night, that is when we're expected to potentially see significant flooding in parts of King County. The pigs at Jubilee Farm likely have no idea what's coming, but David Hawkinson does.
It'll cover the parking lot, so we'll have to move the cars, obviously.
His Carnation area property sits not far from the rising Snoqualmie River, currently forecasted to hit close to 60 feet by tomorrow night. Until then, he'll be working nonstop to move what he can to higher ground. His pigs get loaded up into a trailer last minute.
At the end of October, we had our first flood, and then it ended up being bigger than they initially anticipated, and we lost a fair amount of stuff. This flood's going to take everything.
If the forecast holds, county officials say the impact from the steady rain, the snowmelt, and rising streams and rivers could be significant.
So this would probably be the largest flood event that we've had since 2009. So that's a pretty significant flood event.
Doug Williams says expect a lot of road closures, particularly in the Snoqualmie Valley. The intense amount of water does create spectacular views at the falls.
Yeah, it's epic. I came at a good time.
The conditions not ideal for an umbrella.
Up. There we go. Woo! Nothing like the Northwest.
Parts of the region, as Hawkinson knows, are prone to flooding each year. But getting two just a couple weeks apart does seem a bit sudden.
We had a year where, 8 major floods, and some of them were week to week.
So King County is expected to open its flood warning center later on today to track the impact of these rising water levels. Williams does remind you that it is never a good idea to drive through those road closure signs. You never know if that flowing water will cause any damage to the road, even if the water level is not very high. Live near Carnation tonight, Steve McCarran, KOMO News.
Yeah, Eric, investigators say several propane tanks exploded here at this homeless encampment in West Seattle. You can see some of these charred personal belongings, bicycles, tents, blankets, wooden pallets. While nobody was injured here, there's concern the outcome could be different if this happens again. It's become a familiar orange glow, a fireball erupting at a homeless encampment in the city.
It seems to be spreading in Seattle.
This time under the West Seattle Bridge Wednesday evening and across the street from the Chelan Cafe, where Jillian Madore is a regular.
This is crazy. That is way too close to home.
Earlier, crews also extinguished a smaller fire at Ballard Commons Park. After this one burned down a tent and scorched nearby trees Tuesday night. The latest encampment fires now bring the city's total to more than 1,200 this year. That's a new record, and 2021 isn't even over. What do you think it's going to take before the city acts?
Probably someone dying.
We need to end these encampments as soon as possible.
Kenny Stewart's the president of the Seattle Firefighters Union and is calling on city leaders to act immediately.
So we don't keep going back again and again to issues that should be mitigated by a major metropolitan city.
Stewart says his men and women are facing all kinds of dangerous obstacles beyond the flames, navigating around combustibles like propane tanks, drug needles, human feces, and trying to avoid confrontations with homeless campers who harass them.
For one, you're not supposed to be put a big fire in a big tent.
This homeless man who only wants to go by Perry says a lot of people living out here start fires to stay warm. But in the event it gets out of hand, he says it continues to be a risk to other campers as well.
Not just here, over there. People that live over there.
In many cases, investigators say these are accidental fires and improper use of propane tanks is to blame.
They shouldn't have access to propane tanks.
At the very least, Madore is calling on city leaders to regulate or check up on how these are being used.
I mean, it's kind of a no-brainer.
Hi, everyone. I'm Preston Phillips from KOMO News. Thanks for checking out the KOMO YouTube channel. You can see more of our videos right here by clicking on the video links for more news from the Seattle area and Western Washington. Oh, and don't forget to click the subscribe button below so you don't miss our YouTube updates.